Welcome to Birthday Party Lesson 22, which is on indigestion. The first thing you need to know is what indigestion is. And to know what indigestion is, you need to know a little bit about the digestion system. So our stomachs produce acid, and that acid helps digest food. Your stomach is specially adapted to cope with the acid, so you don't feel any pain when the acid is in your stomach. However, if the acid gets into the gullet, then the acid burns the gullet, and that's when you feel pain. So when you get indigestion, you get pain round about where your heart is, which is why it's called heartburn. And you normally get this when you eat too much food, or you eat too much food too quickly. And as the food goes into the stomach, it pushes a little bit of the acid out into your gullet, and that's when you get the pain. So what we can take when we have indigestion is we can take something called antacids, and they're medicines that you swallow, and they help relieve indigestion. And they work because they neutralize the acid that is in the gullet, and therefore it stops becoming painful. So when watching this video, you need to think about the following questions, because that's what you need to be answering and bringing to the lesson. The first question is, what's the experiment investigating? Then you need to list all the equipment that's needed for the experiment. You need to state 3 variables needed to control to make the experiment a fair test. And you need to explain how we can determine which indigestion tablet is the strongest from this experiment. So, first thing first, what we're going to try and investigate is which indigestion tablet is going to be the best. So the best indigestion tablet is the one that's going to be stronger at neutralizing the acid. So it's the one that's going to neutralize the acid better, quicker, because that's going to stop the pain from happening more quickly. So the first step in this experiment is we have to take the indigestion tablet and we have to grind it up in a pestle and mortar. And the reason we have to do this is because all the indigestion tablets are different sizes. And as you know from previous lessons, the size of the particles affects how quickly a reaction happens. So if we have different sized tablets, that's going to affect how quickly the reaction happens. So what we need to do is we need to crush the tablets in a pestle and mortar, and that makes them all a fine powder, which means that they're all roughly the same, which makes it a fair test. So once we've crushed our indigestion tablet in a mortar and pestle, we then need to go to the next step. And the next step is to weigh our indigestion tablet. And we do this because if we're doing a reaction, we need to use the same mass of the indigestion tablet each time. Otherwise, it's going to be an unfair test. Because if you add more mass of one indigestion tablet than another, then the more mass you add, the more it's going to neutralize the acid. So we've got to keep it the same to make it a fair test. Once you've weighed the indigestion tablet, our next step is to take a measuring cylinder, and we're going to measure the volume of the acid. So we're going to use hydrochloric acid to simulate the stomach acid, and we need to measure the volume of it. And again, this is something we need to do to make it a fair test. If we just put random amounts of acid into the beaker, then it wouldn't be a fair test. So we have to use a measuring cylinder to measure the volume of the acid. So we pour our acid into our beaker, and once we've done that, we need to add some universal indicator. So we use a drop-in pipette to add a few drops of universal indicator to our acid, and that will allow us to follow the progress of the reaction. So because we're adding universal indicator to an acid, you should know already what colour that will go. It's quite a strong acid, so it's going to be a reddy pinky colour. So the acid and universal indicator together in our beaker is going to be a reddy pink colour. So our next step is to take a spatula to transfer the crushed indigestion tablet into the beaker that contains our acid and our universal indicator. And when you do this, you have an option. You can either stir it or you can not stir it. If you do stir it, you've got to try and stir it in the same fashion, because if you stir one of them more quickly than the other or more rapidly than the other, then it's not going to be a fair test. So when you do this, you should find that the indigestion tablet will cause the colour of the universal indicator to change. So we had a red colour to show that it was quite a strong acid. If you have quite a weak indigestion tablet, then it might not fully neutralize it. So it might make it a slightly weaker acid, but it's not going to neutralize it. In which case you'd have the situation on the left-hand side here, where it's gone kind of orangey yellow. If it completely neutralizes it, which is what we want to do, then it would go to green in the middle. So the beaker in the middle is a slightly stronger indigestion tablet than the one on the left. And then the one on the right is even stronger, and that's made it go from being acidic to being alkaline, so it's gone purple, so it might be purple or blue. So this is the way that we can work out which is a stronger indigestion tablet, because if you look on your chart of your pH indicator, in your universal indicator, if you look on the pH scale chart of that, then the further to the right of the chart that it comes, the more you've managed to neutralize it. Thank you for listening.